Greetings, fellow chef, bakers, and food lovers, another edition of the Blind Kitchen, where we enjoy cooking with only 4 senses. I'm Nicole, and as usual, currently is my sister Lauren, and today we are making turkey meatballs. So you can use this recipe with pork, beef, or turkey, but we use turkey because of BBS. We can't really break down any fatty foods, so beef and pork kind of out of the question.
And some people do half beef and half pork.
Or some people also do half turkey and half ground chicken too. I've seen that. But we're using all turkey. So we are doing a 3-pound Spanish turkey, so our measurements are going to be a little higher than what it calls for. But I will post a recipe for a single pound.
Technically, you're going to divide the recipe in half.
That's true. But here you just have the original recipe. I mean, that's how you do cookies, so. So, what the recipe calls for is 1 egg whisked with 1/4 cup of milk. It also calls for breadcrumbs. You can use Italian breadcrumbs or pinto. But if you use pinto, I would do half Italian breadcrumbs and half pinto, because when we did all pinto one time, it didn't combine very well, and it made the meatballs very dense.
And the pinto breadcrumbs don't have any flavoring.
That's true. Other spices you'll need is Italian seasoning, parsley flakes, crust, and garlic powder, which both will enhance the flavoring because turkey is very bland. Salt, Reason sea salt, it's healthier. Black pepper, onion powder, or you can use minced onions, which I can't seem to find. I think it might be out. Or you can dice and saute a half onion. The reason why I prefer using garlic powder or minced onions is onions are like pepper spray to me. And it's very painful for my eyes just being near one small, let alone trying to cut one. I remember one time in our cooking class, all 15 stations had onions that we had to dice. It was so bad that my next class I had to leave because I couldn't see anything. I don't know what people feel like they're sprayed. And then one last spice which we add, which a lot of people would be like, that's not Italian, is I like to add a dash of thyme at the end to enhance other spices. I know, it's like, that's not Italian cooking, but I think it actually helps. But you do not need to add it if you don't want to. It's your preference.
I think it makes it taste better.
I agree. I just realized looking at my prep station, I found it. You also need cheese.
Now you can use Parmesan cheese, like shredded cheddar.
Yep.
Or
shredded mozzarella. But the cheese is like the egg, where it's that more than a binder. And you're going to want to use either a half or a full cup, depending on how much you're making. So we're going to do this off camera because it takes both of us, and kind of hard to do camera moment and mix at the same time. But how we do it is that we add the eggs first, and then we do 4 batches of spices, mixing in between each batch. And because it's our recipe, we don't do this one step, but if it's your first time making it, I recommend taking a skillet, then medium heat with oil, make a small meatball, and then cook on each side for 4 to 5 minutes and taste it. That way you can see how much spice is in your meat, and you can either add more or cook the rest.
What you were saying earlier, you can always add more, but you can't take out any.
Exactly. Like I said, we know this recipe, so it's not like we have to test it, but I know for other people it's their first time, they want to make sure they have it right, not under or over season.
Yeah, I wish we knew that trick when we first made this recipe, because, oh my god, they were so bland.
Yeah.
They were edible, but
bland.
Yeah.
So we'll see you when it's ready for next step.
What's the next step?
Next step will be rolling them out and put on the cookie sheet.
Yum.
So Lauren is on the last mitts now. And like I said, we do 4 minces, but some people prefer their meatballs to be a little more wet. Some prefer like us and be a little drier. So it comes down to what your preference is.
I think it's better when it's a little drier. I think it cooks up nicely.
Yeah.
And like you fried them.
But we get in.
And I think when it's wet, when you bake them, they just fall apart.
So after you have your mixture ready, the next step is to roll your meatballs. And we put them on a grease
Cookie sheet
with foil. That way it's easier to clean up, because we learned that when you just put it on a cookie sheet, they kind of stick and it makes it a little bit harder to clean up. And you want to roll into a ball that's 2 inches.
Yeah.
And you don't have to worry about them touching, because
when you get them close together, you don't have them on top of each other like that.
Right.
Yeah.
And then once you have your sheet filled, you want to preheat your oven to 350 and cook these bad boys for 45 minutes. So if you make them bitter, you definitely need to add more time.
I would say, like, we're cooking a lot because we're going to make them for meatball sub, and each sub's going to be like 3 to 4 meatballs. But even with this much turkey, you can actually split this into 2 meals and freeze them.
Yep.
And if they decide to freeze them, how long would they be good to freeze her?
So most frozen meats are good up for 2 to 3 weeks.
I'll go with that.
And then you can use them for a meal besides meatball sub. You can use it for any meatballs. You could
Ramen.
do ramen, which we have done. Another way is, instead of rolling out meatballs, you should roll it into
A meatloaf.
a meatloaf. Or you could do it as a Salisbury steak. So you can use these for more than one recipe and more than one meal. So here's the full tray. That's about done in the oven for 4 or 5 minutes. And while Laura's rolling, I thought of 2 other recipes you can use these for. So one is doing red meatballs and turning into sweetest meatballs. And how you do that is that you do half a jar of tomato sauce or spaghetti sauce and half a jar of grape jelly.
And then you just cook the regular meatballs like you did and add to the sauce.
Right. And I recommend doing that in a crock pot, so that way it can simmer as long as it can in the sauce. Because meatballs, the longer you have it simmer in the sauce, the better it turns out. And the other one, if you can roll smaller, between a half to an inch, you can use them for Italian wedding soup.
Ta-da! Dang, they look good.
Ta-da! So here are the meatballs. You want to cut them in half, make sure they're done. And I use Ira. That way you have someone that has more vision telling you if they're actually cooked all the way or not. So you definitely want this crust or coating on the outside. And you want the inside to be like what, babe?
Huh?
How's the inside be? Meatballs.
Dry with like a little bit of crust.
On the outside.
Yeah.
And what Lauren's doing now is that you don't want the meatballs to cool on the tray.
They'll stick.
Because they'll stick, so you want them into a different bowl or into a pot of sauce as soon as possible. And then we're gonna let it simmer, and we are gonna make meatball subs, which will be dinner for tonight. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you would like to see us make other meals for dinner, let me know in the comments below. And until next time, treat your palate to something new. Bye!